Welcome to Jesus Changes Everything, a daily podcast dedicated to providing a fresh look at the ancient and glorious truth that Jesus not only reigns, but is busy about the business of bringing all things under subjection, that celebrates the wonder and the glory that he has been given all authority in heaven and on earth. It's a headline-grabbing story, and understandably so. As I record today, it was just a few days ago that it was reported that the bodies of 5 babies had been discovered that may have been killed outside the womb in Washington, D.C., and there was a hue and cry among pro-lifers to ask and demand, in fact, that the Washington, D.C. Police Department investigate whether or not any laws were broken in the performing of these, in the creation of these deaths. And there is some level of uncertainty at present whether these babies were either an example of a late-term abortion or whether they were killed after they were born. And further, if they were killed via a late-term abortion, whether or not they were killed via that outlawed procedure where the baby is partially delivered and then it's it's hard to say. The partial birth abortion procedure that you know about. And a couple of days into this story, we had another strange twist to it in that we discovered that these bodies were found not most recently inside an abortion mill, but in fact inside the home of a pro-life activist. And if that's not strange enough, this particular pro-life activist is a self-identified political liberal, atheist, etc. This is not your mother's pro-life activist. So now we have all sorts of conversation and discussion about these side issues, whether, what was done legally or not legally in order for these bodies to be secured, and by the way, this woman who had the bodies at her home, and along with 9 of her compatriots, have all been arrested. No one from the abortion clinic has been arrested. Well, for all the strange stories and side stories, and for all the things that we still don't know and may likely never know, this particular story caught my attention because it is yet another illustration of what I think is a exceedingly destructive rhetorical approach of pro-lifers. And it is simply this. I'm not saying that the problem is folks are too direct, folks are too clear, folks are too anything. I'm not pushing for more gentleness. I'm not a member of what I call the Sisters of the Whispering Mice, whose pro-life ministry, as good and strong as the intentions might be, amounts to never saying anything offensive or challenging to someone considering abortion. That's not my takes. That's not my concern here. My concern is that we take stories like this and sort of try to enlarge the circle of the offended. Okay, we try to sort of show those who maybe are on the fence on the abortion issue, hey, look at this extreme, awful thing that these abortionists are doing. I first came upon this sort of thought about the foolishness of this approach in the days of the exposure of Kermit Gosnell, who was a abortionist in Pennsylvania, whose abortion mill was so nasty and disgusting and unsafe that even the liberal state shut it down. And people were saying, look at Gosnell, look at Gosnell. Oh, what about the whole back alley abortion argument for legalizing abortion? Here we have legal abortion, and we have a legal abortion mill that is worse than the worst back alley abortion place there was before abortion was legalized. Well, again, it is disgusting. It is horrible. But the problem with abortion is not that it's disgusting. The problem with abortion doesn't grow worse when the child is born. We have pro-lifers eager to try to discover whether or not these aborted children have traveled through the birth canal before they were killed, as if that matters, which is precisely the perspective of those on the other side of the issue. What difference does it make? Oh, it's not just abortion, it's infanticide. I've got news for you, friends. Abortion is infanticide. Oh, it's killing a born human being, as if killing a born human being is somehow worse than killing an unborn human being. It plays right into their hands. And even if we say, oh gosh, late-term abortions, they're so terrible. Look at this child. This child looks just like a child. Well, yeah, the child does look just like a child, but it's no more of a child than the child who doesn't look like a child. What makes us humans is not what we look like. It just seems to me to verify that sneaking suspicion that great swaths of the pro-life world are filled with people who think you shouldn't get an abortion. But if I need to, I should be able to. If I get it early enough, if I get it in a clean enough place, if I get it for an important enough reason. I mean, think about this. Think about even inside the church and out loud. That is, if we were to go into every evangelical church and we were to take a poll and have everybody sign their name to the poll. My name is so-and-so, and I believe either A, all abortion should be legal, B, no abortion should be legal, or C, some abortion should be legal. You understand that the vast majority are going to vote for C. And do you understand what that means? The reason these people oppose the first option, supposedly, is because they believe the unborn are human beings. But in embracing the third option, they're saying some human beings do not deserve the protection of human law. Some human beings we should be free to kill. I've said it 100 times. The problem's not the reason. Right? We post pictures of beautiful children with Down syndrome and are horrified that in the United States 9 out of 10 babies diagnosed as having Down syndrome before they're born are put to death before they're born. It is a horrible thing. But you know what's even worse? 10 out of 10 babies who are killed in the womb are killed in the womb. Whether or not you have Down syndrome is beside the point. Whether or not you have profound health challenges is beside the point. Whether or not you were conceived in a context of a crime being committed is beside the point. Whether or not you traveled through the birth canal is beside the point. Abortion is wrong because abortion is murder, and murder is the intentional taking of innocent human life. Whether you take a pill, whether you go to see a doctor, whether you go to see a butcher, it matters not. So I'm not asking you, friends, to downplay a horror like Kermit Gosnell or a horror like these bodies in Washington, D.C. I'm asking you to upplay clean, safe, careful, polite murders of unborn children. You can't have any more aggravated murder than the murder of a baby, which is, again, what every single abortion is. When you point to Washington, D.C., or you point to this particular mill in Philadelphia, or that particular mill in Jackson, Mississippi, you tell the rest of the world it's not near here. It's not a problem we're dealing with. And the problem we're dealing with is we have safe, clean, sterile abortions, and we just don't care. The problem is in us. My hope and my prayer is that all of us who name the name of Christ would have the same sense of moral indignation for every murdered child. It is the same blood that calls out to God from the same ground. May God give us ears to hear. You've been listening to the Jesus Changes Everything podcast, a production of Dunamis Fellowship, the teaching outreach of Dr. R.C. Sproul Jr. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to subscribe, which you can do at all the usual outlets, to tell your friends, and to spread the word. To learn more about the work of Dunamis Fellowship, please visit rcsproulJR.com. And join us next time on Jesus Changes Everything.